Honey, be gentle, my wife, Jessica, whispered, her voice a playful purr against my ear. It's been 6 months since we've really had time together. I murmured back, how can I not miss you? Just as the moment was reaching its peak, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. The dreamy haze in her eyes vanished, replaced by a sudden, sharp clarity. She reached over, glanced at the screen, and answered without a second thought. Yeah, okay, I'm on my way. Ich stehe daher, Stund. She hung up, completely ignoring my silent plea. In the span of a heartbeat, she went from a soft, pliant kitten to a cold, distant wolf. She pushed me off her strength surprising me. Jess, just 2 more minutes, that's all. I can't. Leo's having another episode. He said if I'm not there in 30 minutes, he's going to jump. She was already pulling on her clothes, her movements swift and efficient. I have to go check on him. You be good and wait for me, okay? Mwah. She planted a quick, dismissive kiss on my forehead and was gone. Jessica, don't go. Come back. I shot up in bed, my hands grasping at empty air. Ethan, what is it? Was it a nightmare? A gentle voice cut through my panic, and a pair of warm arms wrapped around me, pulling me into an embrace that smelled sweetly, familiarly of her. I rubbed my face, the phantom images fading. It was just a dream. God, Jess, I had the most realistic dream. You and I, we were like strangers. You had this friend from childhood, and we were in the middle of, and he called, and you just left me. You just ran off to him. Sure, it's okay. It was just a dream, she murmured, stroking my hair. Don't worry, honey. I would never, ever leave you in this life. In this life? What? Does that mean you left me in a past one? I managed a weak joke, her comfort slowly chasing away the lingering dread. No, of course not. What are you talking about? She scolded, but there was a playful lilt to her voice. My head was buried against her chest, so I couldn't see her expression. Go to sleep, sweetie. You have work tomorrow. I pushed myself up, looking down at my wife, stunning and perfect in the moonlight filtering through the blinds. The lingering desire from the dream, from our interrupted moment, flared back to life. I pushed her gently onto her back. Ethan, we just did this before you fell asleep. I want you again. You greedy thing, she laughed softly, always wanting more. It's crazy to think that Jessica and I met, fell in love, and got married in less than a month. I just graduated from college and was polishing my resume, ready to dive into the soul-crushing job hunt. Before I could even send out a single application, I got an email with a job offer from Omnicorp, the biggest tech giant in the country. The next day, I put on my best suit. The guy staring back at me in the mirror was tall, handsome, and looked like the luckiest man on the planet. At the Omnicorp tower, I was directed to HR. After a few simple questions, they escorted me straight to the CEO's office. The moment I knocked and stepped inside, a high-backed leather chair swiveled around, and my eyes met Jessica Thorne's. She stood up. She was wearing a black power suit, intricately detailed with subtle beading that shimmered under the light. The cut was impeccable, hugging every perfect curve and flaring just enough at the ankles to accentuate her long legs. It screamed luxury, power, and untouchable grace. My brain blue-screened. I just stood there, gawking, completely forgetting to introduce myself. Ethan Clark, right? She said, her voice smooth and confident. Welcome to Omnicorp. You'll be my new executive assistant. You're here early. You probably haven't eaten yet. I haven't either. Come on, I'll take you downstairs for a quick bite. We can celebrate properly tonight. Before I could process it, she took my hand and led me out of the office. No, that's okay. I ate this morning. And I majored in computer science. I don't really know the first thing about being an assistant. I was so amped up for my first day. I hadn't slept at all the night before, running through 1,000 different scenarios in my head. This was not one of them. She paid me no mind, holding my hand as she led me into the lobby cafe. I could feel the eyes of every employee on us, their jaws practically on the floor. What is going on? Did hell just freeze over? The Ice Queen is melting. Seriously, anyone who knows Jessica Thorne knows she's cold to everyone, especially men. Yeah, she never talks to guys unless it's about business. The ones who try to hit on her end up ruined. I heard she wasn't even into men. Maybe she changed her mind. Did you see that kid? Looks fresh out of college, tall, handsome. If I were her, I wouldn't be able to resist either. Haha. Come on, she's not that old. They're practically the same age. To be a CEO at her age is insane, totally unheard of. But her ideas are always way ahead of their time. Stuff we can't even wrap our heads around. In the cafe, I watched as she ordered a huge spread of food and placed it in front of me. It was everything I loved. Pancakes, bacon, a side of scrambled eggs. I tried to remember if I'd absent-mindedly told her what I liked to eat, but my mind was a blank. Then she ordered 2 bottles of milk. I préfère coke et mumblet. No, that stuff is unhealthy. You're not drinking it anymore. Her tone shifted instantly from warm, charming big sister to serious, no-nonsense CEO. She sounded exactly like my mom. All I could do was nod meekly. Her enthusiasm was one thing, but the way she looked at me, it was filled with this deep, unmistakable affection. I mean, I know I'm a good-looking guy, but I'm not that delusional. Ms. Thorne, I started trying to be professional. I really think my skills are better suited for the development department. An assistant role doesn't really align with my major. She cut me off before I could finish. I've reviewed your file, Ethan. Putting you in development will be a waste of your potential. You're suited for management. You can learn the ropes by my side for a few months. But I still think, $25,000 a month, vice president in 6 months. I'm a very fast learner. Suddenly, all my doubts and anxieties vanished. I was now 100% confident I could be the best damn assistant this company had ever seen. Breakfast was amazing. We talked and laughed, and strangely, sitting across from this powerful, gorgeous CEO, I wasn't nervous at all. I felt relaxed, comfortable. It was like I'd known her forever. Back at the office, I dove into my new role. I wasn't used to the corporate world, and schmoozing wasn't my strong suit, so I screwed up a lot at first. But Jessica, who was notoriously strict with everyone else, was endlessly patient with me. If I made a mistake, she'd just encourage me. When I fixed it, she'd look at me with this adoring expression and say, "Great job." Maybe I really was a quick study, or maybe everyone just figured out I was the CEO's favorite, but soon enough I was navigating the office like a pro. People praised my talent and my work ethic. Even the vice presidents were polite and deferential when they needed something from me. Then I overheard the whispers that I was just a pretty boy, Jessica Thorne's kept man, a gold digger. Some of the comments were crude, disgusting things I don't even want to repeat. Hearing it hurt. I was genuinely working my ass off, and I was good at my job. I completed every task she gave me perfectly. The salary and bonuses were insane, but what was I supposed to do? Ask for a pay cut? One evening, I picked up takeout for Jessica from her favorite restaurant, which, by sheer coincidence, was also my favorite. Our tastes were identical. I knocked and entered her office. She was focused on some documents. I set the food down and turned to leave. "Wait," she said, looking up from the containers I just opened. "Where's yours? You only bought 1 meal." "I figured I'd just eat with the guys in the cafeteria," I said, scratching the back of my head. People are starting to get the wrong idea about us eating together all the time. It wasn't about me. I didn't want ugly rumors hurting her reputation. She stood up, walked over, and pulled me down in her chair. "Ethan, did you hear them talking?" "Yeah. The whole office is misunderstanding things, and What if it isn't a misunderstanding?" she interrupted, her eyes locked on mine. Her expression was dead serious. "What if I told you I've fallen in love with you?" The world stopped. It felt like a goddess descending from the heavens to confess her love to a mortal. In my eyes, she was perfect, her looks, her career, everything. And now this goddess, so far above me, was telling me she loved me. I wouldn't have dared to dream up a scenario like this. I was silent. She just kept looking at me, waiting for an answer. Are you joking? The gap between us is, do I look like the kind of person who jokes? She wasn't. Jessica Thorne never joked. She was meticulous, serious about everything. Then why? I was still trying to wrap my head around it. Why what? Why do you like me? Does love need a reason? The moment I saw you, I fell for you. This isn't a game, Ethan. This is I want to spend the rest of my life with you kind of love. She wrapped her arms around me, pulling me into a hug. The scent of jasmine, my favorite scent, filled my senses. I was starting to notice just how many of our tastes and habits were shockingly aligned. Looking at this beautiful, brilliant woman holding me, it felt surreal, unbelievable. I hugged her back and nodded. Jessica was a woman of action. That same evening, after work, she drove me to her villa. The place was breathtaking, the kind of luxury I'd only seen in movies. But what struck me most was the style, the decor, the layout. It was exactly to my taste. And it didn't feel like a single woman's house. There were men's toiletries, clothes, everything. But a closer look revealed they were all brand new, unopened. The walk-in closet was filled with new designer clothes, all in my size. "These are all for you," Jessica said, noticing my confusion. "I bought them because I knew this day would come." "It's getting late," she said, her usual composed demeanor gone, replaced by a sultry look. "Let's get ready for bed. You first, me first. Or together." The Ice Queen was talking dirty, and suddenly I was the one feeling shy. I'll go first," I stammered, my body feeling feverish. I needed a cold shower, badly. I finished quickly and sat awkwardly on the edge of the massive bed, my mind racing. A moment later, the bedroom door opened. Jessica walked in wearing a short, silk slip that left little to the imagination. Her hair was still damp, her face flushed from the shower, and her bare feet padded silently across the plush carpet. She looked like an angel, or a succubus. Either way, no man on earth could have resisted. We didn't get to sleep until the early hours of the morning. That night, I had the strangest dream. In it, Jessica and I were classmates in college. Her family was middle class, and she had a boyfriend, a skinny, long-haired artsy type named Leo. After class, he'd sit in the quad with his guitar, singing songs he wrote himself. To most people, his voice was raspy, the lyrics were crude, and the melodies were just cheap knockoffs of pop songs. But he had a small, dedicated group of female fans, and Jessica was his biggest one. Whenever he played, she would sit on the edge of a planter, her chin in her hands, gazing at him with pure adoration. And I would stand behind her, my eyes fixed only on her. I woke up late the next morning. Jessica had already made breakfast. She was a good cook, and everything was, of course, exactly to my taste. I told her about the dream. Her expression flickered for a fraction of a second before she smiled. "You probably just substituted me for some girl you had a crush on in college," she said playfully. "You know, I've never been interested in music." "But it felt so real," I said, shoveling bacon into my mouth. "Like a memory." "Ethan, it's just a dream. Dreams are weird. You were probably just exhausted from last night." She gave me a meaningful look. "I'm giving you the day off. Get some rest." She kissed me and left for the office. I was wiped out, so I didn't think much more of it. I finished my breakfast, then finished hers too, and crashed on the sofa, scrolling through my phone. The last 2 days felt like a fever dream. A top-tier goddess had not only confessed her love for me, but was now taking care of my every need. I couldn't have scripted this in my wildest fantasies. I lazed around all day. That evening, I cooked dinner, making all my favorite dishes. I figured since she always ordered what I liked, our tastes must be the same. Jessica came home early. It was like she hadn't seen me in years, clinging to me and telling me how much she'd missed me. After dinner, we ended up in the bedroom, and just like the night before, I had the same dream. In the dream, we graduated. Leo, Jessica's boyfriend, was determined to make it big overseas. He claimed Americans were too shallow, that they only cared if a song was catchy and ignored its deeper meaning. He said the music scene here was suffocating him. He broke up with Jessica, sold all his family's assets, and moved his parents abroad with him. They must have bought into his self-proclaimed genius shtick. The day they broke up, it was pouring rain. Jessica just stood there, letting the rain soak her. I was the one who finally brought her an umbrella and walked her home. Later, I heard she got sick, so I went to visit her in the hospital. Her family was busy, so I stayed by her side, taking care of her until she recovered, trying my best to cheer her up. The day she was discharged, she looked at me with a calm, unreadable expression. "Ethan Clark, be my boyfriend." It wasn't a question. It was a command, a notification. But at that moment, I didn't care. I was just ecstatic and agreed without hesitation. We worked for 2 years and then got married. We were both graduates from top universities with good jobs and good salaries. After a few years, we saved up a decent amount of money. She suggested we quit our jobs and start our own company. I was all for it. I figured we'd stick to what we knew, something in design or tech. But Jessica was dead set on starting a media company. Even though our advertising work sometimes brought us into contact with the industry, it was a whole different ballgame. but she had dug her heels in. I always gave in to her, so I relented. I leveraged every contact I had to get the company off the ground. I, the design major, started teaching myself how to write screenplays and compose music. But every time I showed her a new song, she'd look at it with disdain. You only care about making it sound good. There's no depth, no soul. You're just as shallow as everyone else. My work was popular with the public, but I knew she had never once approved of it. I snapped my eyes open. Thank God it was just a dream, but it still left a sour taste in my mouth. It all felt too real. You're awake, Ethan. I made breakfast. Come and eat after you wash up. The Jessica in front of me, her eyes full of love, was a world away from the dismissive Jessica in my dream. They were both my wife, but their feelings for me couldn't be more different. What was even weirder was how the dreams were connecting, like episodes of a TV show. The dream last night picked up exactly where the previous one left off. Remembering Jessica's reaction last time, I decided not to mention it again. She wouldn't believe me anyway. In the months that followed, Jessica treated me better and better. She remembered my birthday and threw a massive party, renting out the most expensive hotel in Seattle and inviting all our friends. She remembered I loved to travel, especially to places like Yellowstone and the Hawaiian Islands, places with some of the most beautiful natural scenery in the world. She cleared her schedule to go with me. I never had many hobbies in school. I was too busy studying. The only thing I really enjoyed was fishing during breaks. So she bought out the lease on a huge private lake and stocked it so full of fish they were practically jumping into the boat, just so I wouldn't get discouraged. She even bought me a yacht for when I got tired of freshwater and wanted to try deep-sea fishing. I couldn't figure out why she was so good to me. After a while, I just told myself I must have saved the world in a past life. After 6 months together, Jessica proposed to me. The wedding was set for December 12th. She took 2 weeks off work to plan herself. She bought out the most luxurious hotel, hired my favorite musician, John Legend, and a dozen other A-list stars to perform. She knew I hated that screaming style of music some foreign acts do, so she didn't invite a single one. The wedding was a stunning, custom-designed affair that reflected our tastes perfectly. The bespoke suit and her breathtaking, multi-million-dollar gown made her the center of everyone's universe that day. After the reception, as we were driving home, I glanced out the window and saw a disheveled homeless man on the sidewalk. His clothes were just rags tied together, and his matted, greasy hair hung in clumps. Both his legs seemed to be broken. He was lying on a wooden board with wheels, pulling himself along the pavement with his hands. I did a double take. When I saw his face, the air left my lungs. It was him. It was Leo, the guy from my dreams. Even though he was a wreck, I could still recognize that same damn pathetic, self-important air about him. The same misunderstood genius look Jessica had been so enamored with. Jessica noticed me staring. She followed my gaze, then quickly turned my head away, pulling me into her arms. Don't look at things like that, honey. It's bad luck on our wedding day. Back home, after we'd showered and were lying in bed, doing what married couples do, whispering about how we finally truly belonged to each other, I fell asleep. And the dream came back. In the dream, our media company had become huge. I was in charge of the film division, and Jessica ran the music division. We'd been married for 10 years, but she always used her career as an excuse not to have children. For a decade, I had given her everything, treated her like a queen. She was never cruel, exactly. She fulfilled her wifely duties, except for giving me a child. But there was no passion in it. It was like she was just going through the motions. I had resigned myself to living out our lives like this. Then, her old flame, Leo, came back. Jessica personally led a delegation of her top music executives to meet him at the airport. She signed a contract with him in the car on the way back. One of the clauses stipulated that making Leo a star would be the company's top priority for the next 10 years. By the time I found out, Jessica had already released 2 of his albums. They were filled with the same unlistenable, self-pitying songs he'd always written. A few of them were so similar to other popular tracks that we got hit with plagiarism lawsuits. Jessica handled all of it, making the problems disappear. Then she brought him to me, telling me to just give him the lead role in a couple of our big blockbuster films for the year. I looked at the man standing in front of me. He was just as sleazy as he'd been before he left the country, But now he was balding, stooped over in his early 30s, sniffling constantly, and as thin as a skeleton. We're not planning on making any horror movies this year, I said, my voice dripping with contempt. But when we do, I'll give you a call. The nerve of this guy. He needed to take a good long look in the mirror. He wanted a lead role in a major production. I wouldn't even give my own son a part if he looked and acted like that. Leo's face fell, my disdain hitting him like a physical blow. He'd seen that look a lot during his years abroad. Back home, his fan base was tiny, but to that small minority, he was a revered icon. And a small minority of 1 billion people is still a lot of people. He couldn't handle the rejection. He was used to being worshipped, not scorned. Abroad, anyone, even random strangers, felt they could push him around. His coping mechanism was to start a TikTok channel where he'd post videos trashing his home country, creating a pathetic, self-deceiving little bubble of validation. It was the only way he could find a shred of self-worth. He'd kept it up until he accidentally heard one of his old songs on TV and found out Jessica now ran a media empire. He scrambled to get in touch with her and immediately flew back. He shot me a glare, then sneered. I thought people here might have evolved in the last decade, but I see you're all still as shallow and obsessed with appearances as ever. I didn't even bother looking at him. Foreigners aren't shallow, but I don't see any of their leading men looking like you. You. Leo was speechless. Jessica rushed to his side to comfort him. Then she turned on me. Ethan, we were all classmates. Do you have to be so cruel? Leo's only been signed for a few days, and he's already released 2 albums. Our company's future depends on him. Stop. I cut her off. I don't care what your music department does, but my film division will not cast a drug addict. You've been in this business long enough to know the consequences of using a tainted artist. And those things he released, you call them songs? A third grader's nursery rhymes have more depth. How dare you? You're accusing Leo of using drugs? Ethan, you become so malicious. I was so wrong about you. Apologize to Leo right now. I shifted my gaze to Leo's gaunt face and pulled out my phone, pretending to dial. Apologize to him? Fina, I'll just call the police. If he's clean, I'll apologize immediately. Go ahead. Call them. Jessica shrieked. Hey, let's just drop it, Leo said quickly, grabbing Jessica's arm. No need to bother them over something so small. I should focus on my music anyway. Acting can wait. He dragged a still fuming Jessica out of my office. And then I woke up. I glanced at the clock. Not even 5 a.m. The dream was so vivid I couldn't get back to sleep. I decided to get up and make Jessica breakfast. Since we'd met, I'd never once cooked for her. She always took care of everything, not even trusting the housekeeper with my meals. As I climbed out of bed, her phone screen lit up on the nightstand. A new message. On a whim, I picked it up. The profile picture was of a heavily muscled bodyguard. The message read, "The beggar has been sent overseas. He will be left to fend for himself. You will never see him again, sir." My first thought was of the homeless man we'd seen on our wedding night. Could she have done all that just because of one curious glance from me? I didn't dwell on it, though it seemed a little extreme. I went downstairs and cooked a huge breakfast. I'd always been self-sufficient, so I knew my way around a kitchen. When she came down and saw the spread, her face lit up. She hugged me and kissed me over and over. As she ate, her eyes filled with tears. "This is so good," she choked out. "I haven't tasted this in so long." I wiped her tears away. "You silly girl. It's just breakfast. If you like it, I'll make it for you every day." Her expression immediately turned serious. "No, today was a one-time thing because I overslept. From now on, I have to be the one to take care of you." I hesitated, but finally asked the question that had been bugging me for months. "Jess, can you tell me why you're so good to me? I honestly feel like I don't deserve." She stood up and gently placed her soft, manicured fingers over my mouth. "Ethan, I'm only going to answer this once, and then you can never ask me again, okay? It's because you're worth it." Seeing the confusion still on my face, she added a few more comforting words, telling me I must be tired from getting up so early and that I should take another day off. She said that after she signed one last contract today, she would clear her schedule and we could finally go on our honeymoon. Then she left for work. I still didn't understand how I was worth it. My degree was in a technical field, but she made me her assistant, a job countless others were more qualified for. I was good-looking, sure, but with her power and influence, she could have any man she wanted, men far more accomplished than me, with a snap of her fingers. And we'd known each other for such a short time. I racked my brain, but couldn't think of a single thing I had done to inspire this level of devotion from a titan of industry. Since I couldn't figure out, I decided to stop trying. I guess I really did save the world in a past life. The next month was a blur of happiness. We traveled all over the country, visiting every famous landmark. She was attentive and caring, and we had the time of our lives. I had never been so happy. But when we returned home, the dream came back every single night. In the dream world, my film division was a massive success. Every movie we produced was a blockbuster, making the company an insane amount of money. Jessica's music division, on the other hand, was a black hole. Leo, despite her full backing, failed to gain any traction. His songs flopped. He went on reality shows and fought with all the other guests. He had no talent and a bad attitude, yet acted like a prima donna. Everyone hated him. Whenever he was on screen, the comment section was a torrent of insults so thick you couldn't even see his face. Jessica refused to give up on him. She spent her nights at business dinners, begging investors to give Leo a chance. But these were sharks, the smartest people in the business. They could see Leo for the fraud he was in a second. No one would risk their project on a reviled artist with no fan base. Jessica grew visibly haggard. I'd never seen her work so hard for anyone. As her husband, it pained me to see her like this. I made her nourishing soups and brought them to her office every day. While Jessica was running herself into the ground, Leo was living it up. His Instagram feed was a constant stream of parties, women, and lavish excess. He'd spent so many years struggling abroad that now he was cutting loose. As if it wasn't enough that Jessica had to beg for resources for him, she also had to constantly put out fires, burying his tabloid scandals. But the worst was yet to come. Acting on an anonymous tip, the police raided a small rental apartment and arrested Leo and his friend for drug use. The report said everyone at the scene was half-dressed. He hadn't kicked the habits he'd picked up overseas, drugs and orgies. Unsurprisingly, his career was over. Jessica, finally and completely disillusioned, didn't even visit him once. After Leo was released, he asked to meet with Jessica. That afternoon, they were both found dead in the private room of a coffee shop. The coroner's report said Jessica had been stabbed dozens of times and died from blood loss. Leo had slit his own throat. A murder-suicide. I arranged Jessica's funeral and took over the entire company. Slowly, I brought it back from the brink. The next year, I met a girl who looked at me with her whole heart in her eyes. The way she looked at me, it was how I used to look at Jessica. She was wonderful to me, but she was 10 years younger. I didn't want to waste her youth, so I pretended not to notice her feelings. But one Valentine's Day, she confessed. She said she loved me. That age didn't matter. She said I wasn't old, just a man in my 30s at my most charming. We ended up together. I adored her, and she gave me a son and a daughter. 50 years later, I lay on my deathbed, surrounded by my wife, my children, and my grandchildren. I closed my eyes with a smile, and then my eyes opened. "Ethan, you're finally awake," the woman beside me cried, her voice choked with relief. "Your pillow is soaked with tears. I couldn't wake you up, no matter what I did. You scared me half to death." I looked at the woman in front of me, my face blank. I wiped the tears from my eyes and sat up. "You must have been dreaming again. It's okay, I'm here now. Don't be afraid," she said, pulling me into her arms and stroking my head. I told her everything, every dream I'd been having for all this time. I felt her body go rigid. The hand stroking my hair stopped. She sat up, her eyes wide with panic. "Ethan, they say dreams are the opposite of reality. In your dream, we had a bad relationship, but in real life, we love each other so much. And I'm pregnant with our baby. I promise, our life will be so much happier than the one in your dream." In the dream, we never had children. But in this life, Jessica had started trying to conceive the moment we were married. She was 4 months pregnant now. I lay in her arms, staring blankly ahead. The dream had been so real. The sound of my wife and children crying in my deathbed was still echoing in my ears. I couldn't tell which life was real anymore. 5 years flew by. Our son was in kindergarten. Jessica had handed over control of the company to me, and become a full-time mom, personally managing every aspect of my life with meticulous care. Today, I went to the office as usual. My old assistant, Kevin, had moved back home to get married, so HR had hired a replacement who was starting today. I got to my office and dove right into work. A little while later, there was a soft knock on the door. "Come in," I said without looking up. The door opened, and someone walked up to my desk. "Good morning, Mr. Clark. I'm your new assistant. It's a pleasure to be working with you." I looked up. "You?" My jaw dropped. The young woman in front of me looked just as surprised. "Mr. Clark, have we met before? My name is Clara Evans. I just graduated from Stanford. This is my first job." When she said her name was Clara, I shot to my feet. It was her, the woman from my dream, my second wife. She was so full of life, so vibrant. The image of the gentle, loving woman who had spent a lifetime with me and bore my children merged with the person standing before me. I fought back the overwhelming urge to pull her into a hug. I told her to relax and take a seat while I finished something up. I leaned against my desk, making small talk. The more we talked, the more unnerved I became. Her family background, her personal history, everything was identical to the Clara in my dream. For the first time, I seriously considered the possibility of parallel worlds. She wasn't shy. For her first job, she was incredibly competent. A little green, maybe, but she was a quick and efficient worker. We worked late, and by the time we were ready for lunch, it was almost 1:30. The cafeteria was serving nothing but dregs. I took her to a nice little bistro near the office. "Order whatever you want. Consider it a welcome lunch," I said, handing her the menu. "Oh, I'm not picky. Whatever's fine," she said, not taking it. "You know this place, Mr. Clark. I'm sure whatever you pick will be great." She had a point. I ordered based on her taste for my dream: grilled salmon, lemon herb shrimp, roasted asparagus, and for dessert, her absolute favorite, a creme brulee. In the dream, I used to bring one home for her after every business dinner. She preferred lighter food. I used to love heavy, spicy meals, but she'd said it was unhealthy and eventually converted me. When the food arrived, Clara's eyes lit up. "Oh wow, you like light food too, Mr. Clark. These are all my favorites." She immediately served herself a spoonful of the creme brulee. I pushed the dish closer to her. "That one's for you. Good for the skin, right? I figure all you young people like that stuff." "Don't say that, Mr. Clark. You're young too. A man in his 30s is in his prime." She wasn't wrong. By any metric, looks, ability, success, I was doing pretty well for myself. I just smiled. She must have thought she'd overstepped because she immediately started backtracking. "I'm not just saying that to suck up, Mr. Clark. I really mean it." She put down her spoon, looking nervous. My heart clenched. "It's okay. You don't have to be so formal. Call me Ethan when we're not in the office," I said, offering what I hoped was a disarming smile. That seemed to put her at ease. She started chattering away, telling me stories about college, about the pressures of starting a new life after graduation. I just listened quietly, asking a question here and there, making appreciative noises. When she laughed, I laughed with her. The feeling was so familiar. It was the happiness from my dream. She was the kind of person who loved to share everything, who always had a million things to say to me. I'm a quiet person by nature, but I loved listening to her endless chatter. It was a fondness I reserved for her alone. We both enjoyed the lunch. For me, it was like finding something I thought I'd lost forever. For her, it was the first time someone had just quietly and intently listened to her pour her heart out. Not even her parents or her best friends had ever given her that kind of validation. After lunch, I drove her home. On the way back to my own house, it hit me how completely inappropriate this was. I was a married man. My wife loved me more than life itself. She had given me everything she had, and she cared for me with a devotion that bordered on worship. We had a son, a smart, adorable little boy who was the spitting image of his mother. How could I let a dream make me lose my mind? The more I thought about how good Jessica was to me, the more I cursed myself for being a piece of garbage. When I got home, I took a moment to compose myself before walking in. The scene was as warm and familiar as ever. My son ran into my arms with a toy airplane, begging me to play. My wife, wearing a simple house dress and an apron, smiled and told me to wash up for dinner. She never let the staff handle my meals. After dinner, the nanny put our son to bed. Jessica and I went through our usual routine. showering together, then making love. Afterward, as I held her, her body still warm and flushed, her eyes hazy with pleasure, I decided to tell her. Her expression instantly changed to one of panic and fear. I'd never seen her look like that. She gripped my hand, her eyes wide with terror. "Ethan, are you saying you met the woman from your dream? Your second wife?" "Yeah, even her name and family situation are exactly the same." Seeing her reaction, a seed of suspicion started to grow. "Jess, are you hiding something from me? I'm your husband. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." She looked at my determined face, then dropped her gaze, avoiding my eyes. "No, it's just, what a crazy coincidence. And I'm not dead in this life, so you can't be with her." Her voice was frantic, and I could feel her body trembling against mine. I pulled her closer, stroking her hair. "It's just a dream, honey. It felt real, but it's different from our life. For one, your attitude towards me is completely different. And in the dream, you, me, and that Leo guy were all classmates. In reality, we weren't. We don't even know anyone named Leo. In the dream, we built a media company together. In reality, I'm running the tech company you founded. You're so good to me. I would never, ever betray you." My words seemed to calm her down. I spent a long time coaxing her back to sleep. But even as she slept, I could feel her twitching beside me. The next day at the office, Clara had already prepared everything. A cup of hot tea was waiting on my desk. She was incredibly capable. After just one day, she already knew my preferences and had everything organized perfectly. But I had made my decision last night. I couldn't do anything to hurt my wife. I had to nip this in the bud. I sat down, took a sip of tea, and looked at Clara, who was standing beside my desk with an expectant look on her face, like a child waiting for praise. "That's all for now. You can go. I'll call you if I need anything." Her expression shifted from surprise to hurt. She couldn't understand why the friendly man from yesterday was suddenly so cold. The innocent part of her had already started to see me as a friend, a confidant. That's why she come in so early, full of energy. Seeing that I wasn't even looking at her, she forced a smile. "Okay, Mr. Clark, I'll be right outside if you need me." I didn't respond. I waited until I heard the door click shut before I looked up, my face a mixture of apology and grim determination. This had to be a clean break. I couldn't give her any false hope. If I didn't handle this right, I'd not only destroy my family, I'd ruin this young woman's life. From then on, I deliberately kept my distance from Clara, but I couldn't deny her talent. In just a few days, she was handling complex tasks with ease. I was impressed, but it never gave her another word of praise. This morning, while making breakfast, my wife accidentally spilled a pot of boiling oatmeal on her hand. Her perfect porcelain skin instantly turned red and began to swell. I heard her cry out from the kitchen and vaulted out of bed, grabbing the first aid kit and an ice pack. I wanted to take her to the hospital, but she just laughed and said she wasn't that fragile. I couldn't win the argument, so I stayed home with her a little longer. When I finally got to the office, there was a crowd gathered outside Clara's office. I could hear cheers and shouting from inside. "Clara, Ryan is a great guy. He's handsome and so considerate. Yeah, and his parents are both professors. He comes from a good family. You wouldn't have to worry about your kids' education. Ryan, what are you standing there for? Get down on one knee and propose." I walked over to the doorway. Just then, Ryan Peters, egged on by the crowd, dropped to one knee, holding up a massive bouquet of red roses. "Clara, be my girlfriend. I've had a crush on you since college. You were the most popular girl on campus, and you turned down everyone. But I was the only one who followed you to this company. My parents had a better job lined up for me, but I just want to be with you." The crowd erupted again. I peered inside. Clara hadn't taken the flowers. Instead, she was trying to pull him back to his feet. "Ryan, we just started our careers. Everyone knows office romances are a bad idea. I'm happy with this job, and I'm too young to be thinking about a serious relationship." Her face was stern, but the commotion had brought a charming blush to her cheeks. Ryan was completely mesmerized. "Clara, if you just say yes, my parents can get us better jobs. We're an old Boston family. We have properties, businesses. We could live off the rental income. If we get married, you can even get your citizenship sorted out." Clara's expression soured. As she turned her head, she saw me standing in the crowd. She immediately let go of Ryan's arm, her tone becoming sharp and annoyed. Ryan, we're adults. When are you going to grow up? I thought my rejection was pretty clear. Do you really want me to say something nasty and embarrass you in front of everyone? But he wouldn't let it go. He stepped in front of her, blocking her exit. His lip trembled, his eyes turning red as if he were about to cry. But I already told my parents I was bringing you home today. They bought you a gift. They're well-respected people. Can't you just do it as a favor to them? Clara looked even more disgusted. She took a step back. In the last 3 sentences, you've mentioned your parents in every single one. Your parents can get you a job. Your parents have property. Your parents are respected. Are you the one asking me out? Or are they? Don't you have any good qualities of your own? Ryan, I'm interested in a mature, responsible man, not a boy who hides behind his parents' money. He was about to say something else, but I knew it was time for me to step in. Is everyone this free this morning? Is all your work done? The gossiping crowd finally noticed me and scattered like mice, looking guilty. Ryan was the last to leave. As he passed me, he shot me a dirty look and huffed, clearly blaming me for ruining his big moment. I just shook my head with a small smile. Kids these days have some nerve. I went into my office. A moment later, Clara knocked and came in. Mr. Clark, I'm so sorry. That was all my fault. I shouldn't have let my personal issues disrupt the office. Her apology was professional and to the point. But for some reason, her cool demeanor disappointed me. I was waiting for her to explain herself to me. But why? Why should I feel that way? She was just my employee. An apology for the disruption was all that was required. It wasn't your fault. Go back to work. I'll call you if I need you, I said, my voice deliberately flat. Clara seemed taken aback by my coldness, but she just nodded and left. Then I called the head of HR. Listen, the maintenance department is short-staffed. Transfer that new guy from R&D, Ryan Peters, over there. Tell him it's a temporary assignment until we can hire more people. The manager nodded. And if he refuses, Mr. Clark, then he can get the hell out. Ahem. Then he can resign. It had been a long time since I'd lost my composure like that. Marriage and success had made me smooth around the edges. At lunchtime, I walked past Clara's office. I instinctively peeked through the blinds. She was sitting alone, picking at a small plate of vegetables from the cafeteria, looking utterly dejected. A pang of sympathy shot through me. This was not normal. I'm not a player. I've worked with countless beautiful women, actresses, models, pageant winners, and I've never felt this way. This feeling scared me. I love my wife. I love my son. I could not destroy my family. My mind was made up. I had to find a reason to transfer Clara, and soon. I couldn't guarantee I wouldn't do something stupid if she stayed. After lunch, I felt exhausted from the morning's turmoil. I threw my jacket over myself, propped my feet up on my desk, and drifted off to sleep. Suddenly, my mind was flooded with images, playing like a movie. This wasn't a dream. It was a memory. When it ended, my eyes snapped open. I was reborn, too, and I clearly remembered my soul lingering for a while after I died in that previous life. I saw Clara collapse from grief bedridden. My soul faded before she ever recovered. The puzzle pieces clicked into place. The question that had tormented me for years was finally answered. Why Jessica had chosen me, a nobody back then. She was reborn, too. I grabbed my coat and drove straight home. I didn't hesitate at the door, just pushed it open and walked in. Jessica was in the kitchen, preparing ingredients for a beef Wellington, my favorite dish. She'd become an expert at making it. Hearing the door, she came out, and her eyes lit up when she saw me. After all these years, she still looked at me with so much love. Honey, you're home early. Did you know I was making your favorite? It's already in the oven. It would have been perfect by the time you usually get home, but since you're early, you should have called. It was a complaint, but her tone was full of happy surprise. Jessica, I say, my voice flat. Come out here. I need to talk to you. I walked to the sofa and sat down. She froze. I never called her by her first name. It was always Ms. Thorne at the beginning, then Honey or my love. My tone was the one I'd used in our past life. She wiped her hands, untied her apron, and sat down next to me. Seeing the cold expression I never wore at home, she took my hand. What's wrong, Ethan? Are you not feeling well? I ignored her question and asked her the one I'd asked so many times before. Why did you marry me? She looked stunned. Ethan, I told you I'd only answer that once. I fell in love with you at first sight. I don't need a reason to love you. Or was it to make up for how you treated me in our last life? Her expression froze, her eyes widening in shock. She couldn't speak. "That's right," I said softly. "I'm back to—" A long, shuddering breath escaped her. It was like she was releasing years of pent-up secrets. Her posture relaxed. "Ethan, it wasn't about making up for anything. I did it because I finally realized what was in my own heart. I realized that I truly love you. We've been together for 2 lifetimes. You know my personality. I'm not the kind of person who would throw away my life just to repay a debt." She was right. In our past life, she was the ultimate capitalist. She'd screwed over plenty of people. Only someone she genuinely loved would ever receive her unconditional devotion. "But why?" I asked. "Last time, you treated me like dirt and then died with your precious Leo. What changed? How did you suddenly fall in love with me in this life?" "I didn't die with him," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "He killed me. After he got out of prison, he kept contacting me, but I ignored him. Finally, he said he was going to kill himself, but if I didn't meet him, he'd kill you first. So I went. I gave him money, a lot of money, and told him to leave us alone. Then he said he wanted to have me, just once. I refused. He tried to force himself on me, and I threatened to call the police. That's when he went crazy and he killed me." The memory was pure agony for her. "He wanted to have you? You mean you never?" "Before," I asked, unable to believe it. She didn't answer, just stared at me, her eyes filled with hurt, resentment, and disappointment. I looked away, unable to meet her gaze. "Well, you can't blame me for doubting. You know how you were with him back then." I admit I was starstruck at first. I was more like a fan than a girlfriend. "We dated, yes, but you know me. I have my pride. I would never, not before marriage. You know that from our wedding night. And after we were married, when he came back, I would never have cheated on you. I don't know why I was so obsessed with him then." I understood. In our past life, she was the top student, the campus beauty, proud as a peacock. She always had a do not approach aura, and she was stubborn. Once she set her mind on something, she never let go. Her pride was also the reason she didn't beg Leo to stay when he left. When he came back, she had wealth and power. The boy who had abandoned her now needed her. The power dynamic must have gone to her head. Then why aren't we classmates in this life? And why is there no Leo? When I came back, it was before the college entrance exams. I didn't go to college. I used my knowledge of the future to start my company. Once I had some power, I found Leo. He killed me in our past life. In this one, I was going to make his life a living hell. How could I let him go to college? I made sure he ended up a crippled beggar for the rest of his miserable life. She told me more. How her soul had watched me arrange her funeral. How she saw me suffer from insomnia at night. How she tried to comfort me, but her ghostly hand passed right through my hair. She started to remember all the good things about me. In this new life, even with her memories without a college degree, starting a business was brutal. She struggled, but she would still find time to go to my campus and watch me from afar, relieved to see I hadn't found a girlfriend. "Ethan, I know I was wrong in our past life, but I never betrayed you. You can't let that one mistake erase everything I've done for you in this life. We have a son, and I'll give you a daughter, too. I swear, I will make you happier than you ever were." I was silent. She was right. I couldn't ignore 2 lifetimes of devotion because of one mistake in the past, a mistake that wasn't even a true betrayal. In this life, she had given me her whole heart. I saw it every day. We had a son, and so far, Clara and I hadn't crossed any real lines. She was young, talented, with a bright future ahead of her. It would be unfair for me to drag her in my mess. I chose my family. My wife and I returned to our loving relationship, even more in love than before, now that all the secrets were out. Since I was reborn, I decided to get back into the business I knew best. I had the capital, the connections, and the knowledge of every hit movie, show, and song for the next 50 years. I founded a media company. From day one, I started producing the future's biggest hits with their original casts and crews. Soon, my company was the undisputed king of Hollywood. At our anniversary gala, celebrating our success, I had a little too much to drink. Clara was the one who helped me back to my hotel room. In my drunken haze, I thought she was my wife from the previous life. I woke up the next morning with our naked bodies tangled together. When she saw I was awake, she looked terrified. "Mr. Clark, Ethan, you don't have to feel bad about this. You were drunk last night. You thought I was your wife. I don't blame you. The pained, brave look on her face as she said it shattered my heart. For 2 lifetimes, I had prided myself on being faithful. Why was this happening to me? I loved 2 women, and I didn't want to hurt either of them. And now, it seemed I had hurt them both. I told her I would take responsibility. I transferred her to the media company and made her a senior executive. I went back to the tech company. I knew I couldn't hide this from Jessica. I had to confess, but I couldn't figure out how. I hid at the office for days, using work as an excuse. Finally, I realized that waiting was its own form of torture. It was better to just rip the Band-Aid off. That night, I drove home. My wife and son were overjoyed to see me. After dinner, I sent my son to bed with a nanny. I called Jessica into the living room and told her everything. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't say a word. She just stared blankly for a long moment, then turned and walked back to our bedroom. Her silence was worse than any rage. I tried to follow her, but the door was locked. I slept in the guest room, though I barely slept at all. In the morning, she had already made breakfast. My place was set at the table, but this time, she didn't call me to eat. I forced myself to sit down and take a few bites. She wouldn't even look at me. Jess, about yesterday. Don't. Just eat and go to work. She slammed her utensils down on the table and walked back into the bedroom. If she'd screamed at me, I would have known what to do. This silent treatment was killing me. I walked around in a daze for days, my work suffering. My loving wife was treating me like a stranger. It was worse than death. In the midst of my misery, Clara came to find me. The first word out of her mouth was, honey. She was back, too. Apparently, being reborn was the new trend. There's an old saying, you can't come back from the dead, but you can be reborn. She told me that after I died, she fell ill. She held on for 3 months, but they couldn't save her. Hearing that she was back, too, filled me with a strange sense of relief. We'd had a wonderful life together. She was the quintessential wife and mother, taking care of our family and allowing me to live well into my 80s. From that day on, Clara started visiting me every day, bringing me lunch, remembering all my favorite foods. Today, it was noon and she hadn't shown up. She wasn't answering her phone. Worried, I drove to her apartment. As I reached for the door, I heard voices inside. I couldn't make out the words, but I recognized the other voice instantly. It was my wife, Jessica. My hand dropped from the doorknob. If I walked in there now, it would be a bloodbath. Since she was okay, and I didn't want to die, I tiptoed away. That evening, I got a text from both of them. The message was identical, dinner tomorrow night, followed by a time and address. I knew this day would come. We couldn't go on like this. The next day, I dressed carefully, trying to look less like the haggard wreck I felt. I arrived at the restaurant on time. When I entered the private room, they were both already there, chatting and laughing like old friends. When Clara saw me, she jumped up and pulled me over to the table. Jessica's cold demeanor was gone, replaced by a warm, happy smile. What are you two? Seeing my confused expression, Jessica spoke up. We have a gift for you tonight. A gift for me? My sister is telling the truth. Here, Clara said, handing me a folder. Jessica handed me an identical one. I took them, my eyes darting between their smiling faces, searching for any sign of a trap. Then I looked down at the documents in my hands. They were deeds. 2 identical, adjacent villas. One was named Past Life. The other was named This Life.